Hi to all of you. Welcome to this series of lectures. In this series of lectures, we will be discussing biosignaling. So this is the first lecture where we will be discussing hormones and their classifications based on nature, effect, target, and mechanism of action. Then some of the bioconcepts about the biosignaling, cellular signaling, and how hormones are regulated in human body. So to start with, what are hormones? Hormones are the organic substances which are produced by specified glands within the human body. Those are called as endocrine glands, and they are secreted in minute quantities to do their function in the human body of regulating the various physiological and metabolic functions of the body. Endocrine glands are the specialized glands located all over the body, from the head to the genitals, in both male and female. They are ductless glands, they don't have any duct, so they secrete their secretions, which are called as hormones, directly into the blood, and the blood takes them to their specific target organs where they do their function, and they make up a system in the human body that's called as endocrine system. There are a number of different kinds of ways by which we can classify the hormones. Four important ones are as listed here in the slide. One is the chemical nature. What is their chemical nature? We can classify the hormones on the basis of that, or on the basis of the effect they carry out in the human body. And what is their site of target? We can classify hormones on the basis of that, and also on the mechanism of action or mode of action. So these are the four different kinds of factors which we use for the classification of hormones. The most common of the all classifications of hormones is based upon their chemical nature, and based upon this we have usually six different categories of hormones that exist in human body to do their function. First and foremost are the derivatives of amino acids. These are called as amine hormones, and they include usually T3, T4 secreted by thyroid glands. Then the another category which is important is the polypeptides. They are made up of the chains of amino acid residues, and usually include oxytocin, pitocin, etc. Third category is the glycoprotein hormones. They are composed of large proteins combined with the carbohydrate moiety, and usually include the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Fourth category, which is important, is the steroid hormones. They are derivatives of the steroid rings, which, as we know, is synthesized from the cholesterol by specific modifications, and they include the glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, sexocorticoids, etc. Fifth one is the eicosanoids, which are made up of small fatty acid derivatives, which is a variety of arachidonic acid, and they encompass usually prostaglandins. Second important classification is based upon the hormone effect in the body, and it is characterized in three different ways. First is the hormones which are responsible for the kinetic conditions. Like these hormones may cause muscle contraction, pigment migration, glandular secretion, etc. For example, the hormone epinephrine suits the bill here. Second category of the hormones is the ones which are doing the metabolic functions. They regulate and enable the metabolism. These are the hormones which cause a change in the metabolism rate and its balance. For example, the insulin, glucagon, parathyroid hormones, these are all metabolic hormones. Third is the morphogenetic effect. If there is a morphogenetic effect by a hormone which involves the growth and differentiation in the body, or change in the reproductive cycles, and so on, and those hormones are called as morphogenetic hormones. For example, here luteinizing hormone, thyroid hormone, or follicle stimulating hormone are the morphogenetic hormones. So this is the classification based upon their effect. Third type of classification of hormones is based upon the site of target of the secretions produced by the cell. And first and foremost is the autocrine hormones. These are the hormones which are synthesized by the same cell as the targets of their action. As you can see in the accompanying picture on the left hand side, the cell which produces the hormones, it secretes it out and the hormone acts on the same cell which it produces. This is the simplest type of an signaling, and it's called as autocrine signaling, and the hormone which is produced here is called as autocrine hormone. Second is the juxtacrine hormone. These are the hormones which are produced by one cell and they move through the gap junctions to the accompanying neighboring cell. So the secreting cell and the target cell are located at close proximity to each other. They are in direct contact, and hence this type of a signaling is called as juxtacrine signaling. Third is the paracrine signaling or paracrine hormones, which are the hormones which are synthesized near the target cell. So the hormones which are produced by the signaling cell will move through the small gap or small distance and go into the target cell to do its function. Fourth one is the important one, which is the endocrine signaling, and endocrine hormones are those hormones which are secreted by the endocrine glands. They dump their secretion into the bloodstream, then blood takes it to the target cells where they do the function. So depending upon the proximity of the target cell, whether it is close or far away, and how much far away, and whether it is bound and having a direct contact with the cell or not, we can classify them as the four different ways. Fourth classification of hormones is based upon their mechanism of action, and on the basis of this, all hormone factory is categorized into two groups, group 1 and group 2. This is dependent upon how they do their function when the hormones arrive at the target cell and where their receptors are present. For the group 1 hormones, those are particularly lipophilic in nature, and they usually include steroids, triiodothyroxine, and retinoids. And they also require some transport proteins in the bloodstream so that they can be carried from the site of synthesis to their target cells. And because they are associated with the transport proteins, they have a longer life in the plasma. Their receptors are located intracellular within the cell of where they have to do their function. The target cell has the receptors located within the cell in itself, that is in the cytosol. And when these hormones have to do their action, they make a complex with this receptor to form a hormone receptor complex, which in turn does the function. In contrast to this group, second hormones include all those hormones which are hydrophilic in nature. They don't require any kind of transport, and their life in the plasma is very short. The particular thing about their role of action and mode of action is that the receptors which are required for the action of the group second hormones are located on the plasma membrane of that target cell. So they make the hormone receptor complex on the plasma membrane surface, and hence the hormone does not traverse the plasma membrane. It doesn't go inside the target cell. Inside the target cell, the second messengers are there which do the function of the hormone. Those are CAMP, CGMP, calcium, or certain kinase which do the function of the hormones. Before we move to the signaling concepts and discuss the cellular signaling cascades and signal transduction, we need to learn certain concepts about the hormone signaling. First is the receptor, which we just went through, is that they are the specialized glycoproteins which are expressed usually on the surface of the target cell. And to this receptor, the hormone will bind and interact to mediate its action. And for the steroid hormones, this receptor is located well within the cell in the cytoplasm. So receptors are glycoproteins which have to interact with the hormone for their action. Ligands are the substances which can combine with the receptor to form ligand receptor complex. And here in the biosignaling, ligands are hormones here. So in order to elicit an cellular response, ligands or hormones have to bind to the receptor to form a ligand receptor or hormone receptor complex. So all hormones interact with the target cell by binding to specific receptors, which I just went through. So they are either located on the plasma membrane or at a cytosolic protein located well within the cell. The receptor for the hormones must be linked to a component that is able to respond to the binding of hormone, that is in turn elicits the response. So each receptor in itself has certain binding sites where a hormone will bind, and some sites which will be then activated to do the function downstream for the hormone. Then there are certain substances which actually fool the responder, which fool the receptors into thinking that the hormone has bound to them. Such substances are called as agonists. So agonists will function in a similar way as the hormone will function. These are specialized drugs which can elicit this similar kind of a response as the hormone does. And the substance which does the opposite are called as the antagonists. They are also the pharmacological intervention drugs which can be utilized to block the receptor from the and prevent the hormone from doing its function. Finally, to the concept of regulation of hormones, how hormones are regulated in their mechanism of action. The action of hormones actually is regulated by many factors. First and foremost is the rate at which it is secreted or synthesized in the endocrine glands or endocrine organs in itself. Then the another factor which determines the regulation is the specified transport system, which is specific for the steroid kinds of hormones. They require transport system from endocrine glands where they are synthesized to their target cells. And the rate of synthesis of this transport system is also a critical factor for the action of hormones. Then there is a third way by which we can regulate is that through expression of the receptors to which the hormones bind in the target cell. The rate at which it is produced and refurbished is also helping in the regulation mechanism. Fourth one is the mechanism of degradation of hormones, how quickly the hormones are degraded from the synthesis. It will also help in the regulation mechanism. There are another kind of regulation mechanisms which are called as feedback mechanisms, which we will be discussing later on in the lectures to come. Here are some of the examples of the hormones based upon their nature. For example, in polypeptides, we can categorize insulin, glucagon, FSH, LSH. In the steroids, there are estrogens, testosterones, and all corticosterone and aldosterone hormones. And the amine derivatives like epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, melatonin are categorized as amino acid derivatives. So this was a brief introduction about the hormones and their mechanism of action and how we can regulate it. You can visit my Amazon page for the books which I have written. They are available in both Kindle and paperback format. And do subscribe to my channel for further videos which I will upload in due time.